Black Hawk Area Council, Wanshanagi District, Troop 57, and the Spahn family, I'd like to welcome you to Peter's Eagle Court of Honor. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could have Nick DeFrancisco please come up for presentation of colors.
Post the colors.
Please follow me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please follow me in the scout oath.
I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the scout law, help other people at all times, keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Please follow me in the scout law.
As trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Color guard, retreat.
This time, if I could have Dr. Okeson come up and get his invocation.
Dear God, thank you for this day, and for Peter Spahn and all his friends and family and fellow scouts and scouters who share his recognition today. I pray that we would continue all to be helpful and of service to all of humankind where we are needed. Amen.
At this time, if I could have Mr. Greenland please come forward for the call of the Eagles. Everybody can sit down.
It's a tradition that all the attending past Eagles from the troop and any other Eagle Scout come and sit up here in what we call the Eagle's Nest. If any of the Eagle Scouts, past or present, are here, would you please come up and sit in the Eagle's Nest? And after you arrive here, then I'd like you to turn and face the audience and tell your name, the date, and the troop that you affiliated with when you received your Eagle Scout. Any Eagles, please come forward.
Austin Wood, Troop 57, Class of 2008.
Ed Okeson, 14, 1972.
Brad Gilpin, 69, 1972.
John Dunaway, Troop 57, Class of 06.
Thank you. Be seated. It's an interesting thing to note that when I joined scouting, only 1 in 100 made Eagle Scout. And through the efforts of good leadership, we have as many as 4% of the Eagle Scouts make Eagle now. And so we're proud of every one of them. Thank you.
This time, can we have Ian Hogshead escort Peter in? You look pretty comfortable. I hope you stay that way. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite up Mr. Dan Leiter for Peter's Trail to the Eagle.
Peter, who's this? Who? Who am I? Okay, well, Peter's Trail to the Eagle almost didn't get off on the right foot. When Peter joined Troop 57, I was the lucky one who had the first summer camp with him as the acting scoutmaster. Well, I went through most of summer camp as who? Mr. Eberleiter. Not an auspicious start to the trail. I just came back. I've been hiking all weekend, and it gave me, when I go backpacking and hiking, it gives me a lot of time to remember things along the trail. As Rolly said, not a lot of boys make it to that final end of their trail, their final trailhead, which is Eagle Scout. A lot of boys, like a lot of people who go backpacking or hiking, sometimes get halfway down the trail and say, you know, there's more interesting things to do, or I want to finish now and have somebody pick me up and take me home, or I want to turn around and go back. Well, that's what's nice about Peter. He never said that. On his trail to Eagle, he was always there. He was always there to help. He was always there to support. He was always there. He was always there. See the two people in the front row there, Peter? Let's see the couple people in the rows behind him? I want you to make sure you thank those people, because Peter's Trail, you know, it's, most of our scouts are from right here. They're from right in the neighborhood. Peter comes to us all the way from Poplar Grove. So he either had a strong desire that he wanted to be here with a lot of his friends and with us, even though I tried to persuade him after summer camp never to come back. You know, it's thanks to his parents and everybody for getting him here every week, for getting him to camping. If you look in your program, and I won't belabor this, but Peter owns the 100 Nights of Camping Award. That's a very prestigious award in our troop. Not everybody goes on campouts, not everybody gets to that point or keeps the true records for saying that they have made 100 nights of camping and scouting. And that's a lot of weekend camps, not just including summer camps, which will give you, what, about 6 nights? And a couple high adventures. But Peter was there for us, and it helped him make his trail to Eagle. You know, the fact that a boy is an Eagle Scout has always carried with it a special significance, not only in scouting, but he enters higher education, he enters business or industry, and in community service. The trail to Eagle is performance-based. A scout has to advance through the ranks. A scout has to earn his merit badges. A scout has to get through his Scoutmaster conferences, and in some cases, trying to really make it through his committee reviews. He also has responsibility for service and responsibility to the troop.
I was lucky that when in Peter's leadership role, he was one of our away reps. He made his meetings, he represented the troop well, and there were lots of nice comments that came from the Order of the Arrow organization. Steps in advancement. The scout first learns. He's then tested. Of course, in some cases, in Peter's case, he tested us. He's then reviewed. Peter didn't like being reviewed, did you? Scoutmaster conferences usually went pretty well, but in front of the committee, he learned how to do public speaking, which was rather interesting. We'll see how well he does when he gets his chance up at the board here today. But final, the Scouts recognized. Today is a really important day. He's being recognized for getting down the trail, taking all the proper steps, having a lot of fun, having some trials and tribulations through the ranks, but he's made it here to sit in front of you and have some fun today. Finally, Peter, give me the look. Got the look. There it is. It was always interesting to see if you'd call Peter in front of you, if you'd be on a camp out or if you'd be on some trip, you'd yell Peter. All of a sudden he would freeze, look at you, first question out of his mouth, what did I do? Usually it wasn't anything bad, it was usually recognition for doing something good. And then it was followed by that, the smile. That was one of the things that always endeared me to Peter was the smile. It's contagious. And I'm glad to see that he completed this trail, and we'll have some more fun going forward. Thank you.
Next, if we could have our main speaker, Ms. Maloney, join us up front. You still comfortable? Just check.
I am so excited to be here. I can't tell you, I've got things planned. So Peter, what can I say? Apparently lots. Okay, first, I want to thank you for inviting me to be your speaker. I am truly honored. I am so honored, in fact, I made sure that I did not have to drive the red car down here, the old, beat-up, unreliable red car, so I would make it here on time. But first, I do want to say that Joshua and Nathaniel both are very sad not to be here. Very disappointed. You see, Joshua and Pete have been good friends since the beginning of their scouting. As Mr. Leiter said, Pete came from, I believe at the time I was told Caledonia, and I was like, oh, that sounds way far out. He came alone from his pack. He didn't know anybody else in the room, and didn't know anybody here, and somehow he found Joshua within the first night or two of Monday night meetings amongst this churning mass of scouts in the room down below. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now, they've had their share of ups and downs, fame and shame, and many scouting adventures together. In fact, as I look at Peter's Trail to Eagle, they did many of Pete's 100 nights of camping together in the same tent, and that tent, poor tent, will become a constant theme throughout the talk. They did NYLT together. They did the Texas Trail, Chisholm Trail together. They did the Washington, D.C. High Adventure together and the West Virginia High Adventure together, as well as the Microtrek one year. They were inseparable. Gave me lots of opportunity for talking. In fact, Joshua has had a pet gecko for years, and when he left to go away to college, he bequeathed his gecko to Pete, trusting Pete to keep it fed with yummy, juicy crickets. I am so glad that I'm not the one having to feed that gecko those crickets. More about the gecko later. So Peter had the unlucky fortune to be my son Joshua's tent partner. I promised you more about tents. So for most of their scouting life, tent life has been a major role in their relationship. So they survived and shivered together on more than one occasion, and the first traumatic tent experience they had was up at DeSolis. It was one of their first years of scouting. I don't believe, Mr. Leiter, it was the first year, but it was one of the first. And it was that first Sunday afternoon, and we were setting up the tents. And as we were hiking up to camp with the packs on our back, we looked up, and the storm clouds were rolling in. The wind was picking up. We got up to the top, and everyone's looking over their shoulders, and as a group, we collectively decided that if we really hustled, we would just have enough time to set our tents up and get everything into shelter and safe and secure. Well, it was a great plan, but we did not count on camp staff. Camp staff down below had their GPS units out, they had the weather station on, and they were watching the rotational aspect of the clouds called a tornado. So they sounded the alarm. We had been about 10 minutes into setting up camp, and we all had just had some of our tents up, but not the entire part of the tent. But when that siren sounded, with much eye-rolling, moaning, and groaning, we all abandoned our halfway pitched tents and went down below. And sure enough, we actually got down there just before the rain started, and the rains came. And it came in torrents and buckets and sheets of rain as we all sat there and moaned and groaned, looking up at the sky, going, "Oh, our tents, our poor, wet, sodden tents." Well, we got back on top. We finished putting our tents up, and guess who was sleeping on the downhill side of the tent? Good old Pete. So after that, everybody was saying if we'd only had a few more minutes to set up our tents, we'd have been fine. Thus began the era of speed tenting. Joshua and Pete decided that they never wanted to sleep in a wet tent again. So, spurred on by the competitions, they decided that they wanted their claim to fame in scouting to be the fastest tent putter-uppers that this troop had ever seen. So they practiced, and they planned, and they practiced some more, each year doing better and better at the Webelos weekend and scout competitions, until they achieved their personal best, and I kid you not, 1 minute, 14 seconds. Start to finish. Tent in the bag, and tent pitched. 1 minute and 14 seconds. Adam's looking at me with these big round eyes. So you guys, next week on Webelos weekends, think about it. 1 minute, 14 seconds. No matter how cold and wet, how rainy or snowy, only 1 minute and 14 seconds away from being outside and inside your home away from home, ready to protect you from the elements. Nice job. They were pumped. So, another one of their escapades, small boat sailing. And I have to admit, in the program, I did notice that small boat sailing, although the order is not in alphabetical order, it looks to me like small boat sailing is at the end of the list of merit badges. And repeat, you know what's coming. I'm going to explain why it's at the end of the list. It's a good thing that we don't have to retest for merit badges. Okay, so poor John Dunaway had the misfortune to be paired with Joshua and Pete sometimes on a sailboat excursion. They did pretty well in the preliminary phase, otherwise known as the shore part. But when they had to test their skills on the water, well, let's see, what all happened? Well, now, grant you, there's only 5 days that they do merit badges. How bad can it get? One of the first days out, they got stuck out in the middle of the lake. There was no wind, and they had to paddle their boat back home, much to their chagrin. Well, you know, that happens. That's not really something in their control. Another on their boat, something at the top of the mast or something, they couldn't get the boat right, and they couldn't sail the boat. No kidding. A camp staff had to row out to them to rescue them. They were 3/4 of the way down the lake. And how embarrassing is that? Not only that, the camp staff kicked them off the boat. They got onto the shore and they had to hike their way back to camp. And the camp staff towed the boat in. So not a very great way to start the week. But this is midweek still, we have more time. And actually, on the final day, on the last day, I actually got to see this one. It was a great day for sailing. A beautiful, steady breeze, no gusts, no reason that they should have any problems at all. It was glorious. I was escorting a scout up to shooting sports up on the lake trail. So I had this beautiful vista. It was a beautiful blue sky, sunny day. And this younger scout and I were making conversation as we walked by some of the, past the trees we could see out there on the lake. And I said, oh, look, that's some of our boys. Oh, look, I think that's Rocco and their boat, and there's so-and-so. And as we were pointing to the boats, one of the boats just went, ooh, splash. And the scouts just peeled off the boat. So we were laughing and exclaiming, I wonder who that was. They looked like they could be ours. They've got red shirts on, but some of the other scouts have red shirts on too. And so as they were splashing and trying to right the boat and carrying on, I looked out and there was Pete and Joshua. Well, we Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and the scout and I were just laughing. So what happened, we asked later at the dinner table. I don't know what was the answer we got. One minute we were sailing, and the next minute we were in the water, and we don't know what happened. And so, just like in the cartoons, a miracle occurred. Splash! So the next episode, we're on the Washington, D.C. trip, touring the Washington sites and all the memorials that Mrs. Heberlein had ever heard of and could fit into 39 hours a day. I believe it was at the Roosevelt Memorial. I'm not really, we saw so many, I tell you, I can't remember them all. But it was the one with the big monoliths of stone. You feeling comfortable? Not too bad, okay. So, some of the scouts decided they needed some exercise. Now, these monoliths were a good 2 to 3 feet up off the floor. And the scouts decided they needed exercise. And Pete, feeling cramped from sitting in the bus the whole time, decided he was going to join them. Now, Joshua and Rocco, with their long legs, were standing on the ground and then would actually, they were 3 or 4 feet off the ground. And so these boys with their very long legs, it wasn't Rocco. He wasn't there. Who was it? Mike DeFrancisco. Okay, well, they were jumping up onto these hard stone blocks. Pete decided he needed to get some exercise. Jumped up, caught the front of his shoe just on the lip as he was crusting up above it, tripped forward, slid down the front of the rock on his shin bone, peeled off his skin like a carrot peeling. And of course, he came to me, and I swear, I think I could see white bone underneath. There was blood everywhere, down his leg, all over his socks. We had to find new socks for him. It was pooling in his shoes. We're trying to take care of this while we're on a camping trip. Not good. Stitches, you might ask. I wish that would have been easier. He didn't leave enough skin to pull it back together. However, a happy ending. He made it back home, and it healed up pretty well. He only has a few scars to prove it. One on his leg, a couple up here. Traumatized. He says it doesn't hurt. I don't know if I believe him. Remember how I was picking at it with the alcohol stick? Sterilizing it? Sterilizing it, yes. It didn't hurt, but there were tears in his eyes. His eyes were glistening. Okay, so I bet many of you don't know that Pete is actually pretty good with computers. He's kind of quiet about stuff like that. His dad works on computers, so he comes by it naturally. A few years back, he decided that he wanted a computer of his own, but he didn't have a lot of money, and a scout is thrifty. So he decided that he was going to go out and get odd jobs and work around the neighborhood and some at home and do things and gift money. And he ordered the components online. Now, I should say, for those of you in the second row, He wanted his own computer so he wouldn't have to share with brothers and sisters. But, you know, anything is a good incentive. So he orders them online, had them delivered to his door, and assembled them himself into a working computer. Pretty cool, huh, guys? Well, Joshua decides that Peter's computer is really neat. Fast, lots of capabilities, memory and stuff, and a really great video card. And Joshua actually needed a new computer about the same time. So he decided, Joshua, that he too would assemble a computer himself from parts. Except his dad doesn't work with computers, and no duh, I don't either. So, whereas Pete took, 2 to 3 weeks to assemble the computer and a couple of minor glitches and some help from his dad and a few false stops and starts, Pete made it happen. Joshua's attempt it spanned 3 to 4 months. Multiple stops and starts, more than a few minor glitches, and when he tried to install his motherboard, incorrectly I might add, and fried it with a sizzle and a pop, after he ordered his new motherboard, no kidding, but he wasn't even in the computer yet, he went so he scheduled an appointment with Pete to come over and help with the computer. A few more visits on Pete's card, and the computer was complete and working. Peter to the rescue. Yay, Pete! The benefit for them was that when Pete would come over, they would carry our dining room table from one room into the family room. Joshua and Pete and Nathaniel would erect these 3, honking computers up on the dining room table with the TV. So they'd sit on the couch, the dining room table's here, the TV was here, and they would all play these multiplayer, what are they called? Yeah, they'd all play these games together where they're on the same team so they could see it on the same monitor. And so they would do that for hours on end. Very loudly, I might add. Okay, so back to the tents. Since that's where they spent most of their time together, I don't really know what happens in the tents, and I'm not really sure that I want to know. However, they told stories of how they couldn't find something, but when they finally cleared out on Sunday morning, they would suddenly find they were under things. Tent explosions come to mind, where everything inside the pack just goes all over the place. And I can attest to that happening because I can't tell you how many times. Be afraid. How many times I would be folding laundry. And in my laundry, Pete, Joshua's. I am so glad Joshua's not here today because I don't think he'd let me do that.
Let me see that.
That's a little racy. Let's bring it back down here. Pete. Joshua. Laundry days. It's not like they're even close to the same size, Anyway, so on one camp out, it was really cold, and Joshua, being a nice friend, gave Pete one of his extra blankets because Pete was cold. They woke up in the morning. Pete is shivering, and Joshua is toasty and warm, wrapped up in the blanket that he stole from Pete in the middle of the night. Indian giver. Well, it's about the only thing that he could steal from Pete and use. One of the things that I know Pete was a little concerned about that I haven't touched on yet is your hair. Okay, so Pete's hair has been a discussion among us scouts for years. It's curly, unruly, long. He's the only scout in my memory that has had long enough hair to pull it back and tie it up. But it's always clean, thank heavens. However, if ever one of our scouts had a reason to have long hair And I'm so sorry that Mr. Smetana is not here. He particularly comments on longish hair. Have you ever noticed that Scouts and Scouters, that in the summertime, it's always long pants for Pete? Always. Even in DC, with the heat index of 108, it was long pants. So no shorts ever. Now, he never breaks a sweat, and half the time he's got a jacket too. Now, he has legs, I know, because I've seen him do a swim test, but his legs only come out when we're doing our swim test. He's just always cold. And it's my belief that he needs his hair to keep him warm. Now, I happen to know that Peter's bedroom is in the basement of it's in the lower level of his house. It's half basement with a linoleum floor. So, you know, it can get pretty cool down there. So I do know that he plays on his self-built computer down there with his feet on the cold floor. He sleeps down there in the cold. He does his homework down there, shivering. And he watches his gecko down there in the cold. Even his hair can't keep him warm. So Pete, I have a few things for you that might help. First of all, for helpless living creatures who depend on you for their very existence, it's a warming light for the geckos now that it's getting cold outside, to keep the gecko warm. Pete's not the only one who gets cold. And second, Pete, something to keep you warm in your room also, and it's labeled so that you can't lose it in the laundry, even to a thieving tent partner. It's a blankie. Okay, so Peter had the misfortune of accompanying us on family outings and vacations. It was always a pleasure to have him along. He was always polite, always had a smile, like Mr. Leiter had said. And often it was much easier to be around Pete than our own two sons. We fondly refer to him as our favorite adopted son. Except, occasionally, he would get a devilish gleam in his eye and come up with a nasty pun or joke, and then we dubbed him our evil stepchild. But always, we hold him in high respect and affection, and he is forever a part of our scouting and family life. So to Peter, a great friend, a great scout, we can't wait to see what you do with the next phase of your life.
Leanne, before you come down, there was always a name that we hear when Peter Jack was playing on the computer. We go, oh no!
Fluffy! I'll let Pete explain that one. Just remember, if he doesn't explain it, ask him downstairs. Fluffy.
Well, what do you think? Interesting background, I guess. Some of it's probably true, some of it, what do you think? Marginal? I too had the pleasure of going on several campouts with Peter, and one I remember in particular, we were in West Virginia on a high adventure, and I don't know if you remember, I think you might have been in the car with Mr. Boyd. But they get these new things that came out, the GPS, right? So we're going to this scout reservation in West Virginia. I have no clue where it's at. It has no address. You know, so I'm thinking, okay, how hard can it be to find? I'll get a GPS, we'll get there, no problem. So I put in the reservation's name. Remember that day when we finally got into West Virginia, we're driving around and we're just in this loop in these trees. And I think by the second time I passed the quiet place, I go, you know, I've seen this place before. we had the old house with the rundown, I don't know if you remember it all, but they didn't give me the creeps when I went by it the second time. But fortunately, we did get to our scout reservation. The other thing I remember, we did some horseback riding. We got to do some spelunking. I found out that I do not like caving, not at all. And there was one instance we were going through an area. You remember what it was called? Where you guys went down through that hole and came up through the cavern. Yeah, the birthing canal. And Mr. Boyd, he tried to get down through it, and you had to go into the hole and you had to turn your body. You get stuck, right? And you couldn't get through. You couldn't get down. We had to lift him out. And what did these guys say? Mr. Hunter, are you going to try it? I'm bigger than Mr. Boyd. They had a lot of care for him. And we did some whitewater rafting too, so that was a fun trip. And like I said, I really enjoyed the time we had camping. As Mr. Lyer pointed out, and also Mrs. Willard, you were always very helpful, most of the time when I asked. And we could count on it. And that was one thing that's important when you're on a camp out and you're trying to wrangle some guys, if you have someone that you can lean on. And you definitely will. All right, so we'll move along. Next, if I could have John, Mr. Dunaway, come up and lead us in the Eagle Charge and Eagle Promise.
Oh, if there was more time. But I'll get to the point. The Boy Scout of Nations constitutes one of the most wholesome and significant influences of the world's history. You have been counted worthy of this high recognition in the Boy Scouts of America. All who know you rejoice in your achievements. Your position, as you will know, is one of honor and responsibility. You are a marked man. As an Eagle Scout, you assume a solemn obligation to do your duty to God, to country, and to your fellow Scouts, and to mankind in general. This is a great undertaking. As you live up to your obligation, you bring honor to yourself, to your brother Scouts. Your responsibility goes beyond your fellow Scouts. It extends to your country and your God. America has many good things to give you and your children after you. But these good things depend for the most part on the quality of her citizens. Our country has had a great past. You can help make the future still greater. I charge you to undertake your citizenship in a solemn dedication. Be a leader, but only toward the best. Lift up every task you do and every office you hold to the highest level of service to God and your fellow man. So live and serve, that those who know you will be inspired to the finest living. We have too many who use their strength and brains to exploit others and gain selfish ends. I charge you to be among those who dedicate their hearts and hands to the common good. Build America on solid foundation of clean living, honest work, unselfish citizenship, and reverence to God. Then whatever others may do, you will leave behind a record of which you may be justly proud. I know Mr. Heberlin's supposed to be doing the challenge, but since I got all three of them here, I have been asked to do all three. Eagle candidate, Peter Spann, I charge you to enter this Eagle Scout Brotherhood holding without reservation and ever before you the ideals of honor and service by the responsibilities of the Eagle Scout promise. Before your fellow members, you will become an Eagle Scout. Through the words you use are similar. Sit down, not yet. You're one ahead of me, so. Before your fellow members, you will become the Eagle Scout. Though the words you use are similar to those by which you join Scouting, tonight they will mean more than they would have meant at any time in the past. When you pledge yourself on your sacred honor, you will be sealing your eternal loyalty to the code of the Eagle Scout. I can stand up. Right hand for the scout. Sign. And repeat after me. I reaffirm my allegiance to the three promises. I thoughtfully recognize and take upon myself the obligation and responsibilities of an Eagle Scout. On my honor, I will do my best to make my training an example. My status and my influence count strongly for better scouting. Influence counts strongly for better scouting. For better citizenship in my troop and community and in the contacts of other people. This I pledge my sacred honor.
For the Eagle presentation.
You know, while I was sitting there, I was remembering our past together. You know, you and I missed 4 years in there, but I still got some nice digs in with you. I didn't know about that thing in Washington, D.C. She does a good job of patching people up without me knowing it. But you were doing really good. We were suffering in D.C. We stopped in Pittsburgh for the night because we had a nice church that allowed us in there. And you had a visitor in Pittsburgh. Who was it? Which sister? Your, the ship name? Stephanie, thank you. Well, Stephanie showed up, and it was a great opportunity. You know, she lives there now, and it was a great way to get like a family visit in there. Now, he suffered. He's been in a tent for 11 days. Probably didn't smell all that good. And that was the first time we met her daughter, right? Or is it a son? Daughter is? Okay. So was that the first time you met the daughter? Close? Okay. But I thought it was kind of neat. You know, he's been in a tent. He smells really bad. The kid must have thought something really strange. And what did her sister make you do the first thing? What did she say? Here, this is for you. Diaper change. Yeah, diaper change. It was perfect. It was well aimed. It's like, here, meet your your dad. He said, go change diapers. I thought it was perfectly timed. Then we went to dinner, all about the same idea. But it was kind of a neat little family gathering. I was having fun. The other thing, you guys contacted me. You wanted pictures of D.C. and any pictures of your son that we could put up of your son. Well, a lot of them we couldn't print. We couldn't show them in public. But I don't know if any of you guys know T. Francisco. That guy sleeps with his camera. You know, if he's breathing, he's taking a picture. And he's got like 3 discs. There's 4,000 pictures I looked at for finding some of you. And there was one I thought was perfect. It was like, this is Peter Spanner. I looked a little closer and it's like, no, Joshua's there. It's his shadow sitting there. It wasn't you after all. But for a second I thought it seemed like that was you. Out of all those pictures, I didn't find one that I could use. It was the back of his head. It was the bottom of his feet. There was one you were sitting in a chair and you're just kind of lounging like you were before, and all you was your soles of your shoes. So he's been my stealth scout. You know, out of everything we do, I went through my pictures. I couldn't find any of you other than there was one at dinner. I got another picture of the back of your head. And you guys know we were at the Air and Space Museum. They wanted to find a picture of him at the Air and Space Museum that I took. What do I take pictures of in the Air and Space Museum? airplanes. I don't have any people anywhere. It's all planes. So I just threw that in the scout. There's going to be nobody in those pictures. But I did look, just in case. The other thing I want to talk about is you are that stealth guy that's behind the scenes, but the most important person. The one you can count on, the one that you call in and say, hey, I don't need somebody to stand up in front. I need somebody to really be the backbone of this thing. We have a popcorn sale, and there was like 50 shifts you planned to do for the popcorn. And even with a group of 50 Boy Scouts, we couldn't cover them all. So who got the 48 of them? Okay. He's always there. He's that backbone. You know, I've got a lot of boys that will be in the front. They'll be counted on to be standing in front saying, yes, I did this. There's only one scout I see that gets behind and does it, and then who did it? I don't know who did do it. That silent soldier in the background is always an impressive one. And the two-gun soldier. Everybody else is looking back here, and somebody must have done something weird, and there's something really neat going on up front. There's only one person in the picture that's looking even toward the tomb. It's Pete. The only one really paying attention to the world was him. Everybody else was watching a bird, you know, crash into the marble or something. He was it, though. He was watching the world. One of the neatest things I heard while I was out looking for something on Pete was I ran into an adult that worked with him on a couple of I think it was last year at the tree lot. And she's like, I don't care when I work, I just want to make sure it shifts that Pete's had. You know, we all talk about being around youth and being around teenagers, and all of us want to go, just, you know, don't get me anywhere near kids. I don't want to have anything to do with kids. It's amazing when an adult says, you know, I'm impressed with this young man, and I don't care what goes on, I want him on my shift. Again, that's Pete. That guy that, okay, they're all climbing on top of the snowdrifts, but Pete's there working. Pete's making sure it happens. That backbone you got to have in the background. The other one was, you and Josh always got in trouble. You hear somebody go crash, and Josh, of course, being tall, he's the first target. And as you're yelling at Josh going, what was that? You watch Pete sneaking out the back. And he never got blamed for anything. I remember there was a Dutch oven that went completely off into the fire, and Josh was there going, and you were, where's Pete? So that stealth works perfectly for you. And you have done 4 years, and you've been in here 7 years. Very good. And it's always been a pleasure working with you because if there's a job that has to happen, weekends, weekend, whatever, there's always one scout that I can turn to and say, without doing it, find someone to do it. You did. And it was always amazing watching how you could teach a scout to do that job. And then when it was time to congratulate him, you were always behind him going, he did it. And that's leadership. That's what I want to see more in government nowadays. Government, we got a lot of people that stand in front and say, I'm doing it, I'm the one, but there's nobody in the background actually taking care of anything. That's what I need right there, is this guy right here. He will make sure it happens. If the parents would come join me, I'm going to give him it as an award. And because it's a family operation, you better be right behind me. We've come a long way now. It's okay. You guys are actually perfect right where you're at. All right. All right. On behalf of Troop 57, we talked about this award. 4% of scouts that start never finish. Used to be 1%. Our troop is doing actually a little better than national average. We get 4 to 6% out of this troop, which goes to show, you know, I might be the one up here, but every one of these adults in uniform is what makes it happen. For every scout here, there's 26 merit badges they have to do to finish. We have 26 in the troop. We don't have to go anywhere else. It is a team effort. And the adults are there waiting for the boys. And then I've got the adults that are pushing them with a size 14 boot through the door. And it doesn't happen unless mom and dad are there helping to make it here. I like adults that, well, my kid was bad at school today, so I'm keeping him home. I like the other ones that say, you know what, he needs to be taught something. He needs to go to scouts and learn what he's supposed to be doing. And that's what we're about. We're teaching them the right way to do things. So don't keep them home. Send them to me. I'll take care of them. On behalf of the entire Troop 57, you are going to fix that again. I was going to let you go. Nobody's going to go. is a team effort because Mom and Dad are the ones that really are the ones every Monday night going, "Here, young scouts, are we going to get there?" I would like to present this patch on behalf of Troop 57. It's really his, but we all know who helped get it. So thank you very much. Thank you for helping us and thank you for letting me share your son for 7 years. It's been a real pleasure. Yeah, a big one. In recognition of your parents' role in getting you to this point today, there is a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout mom's pin. So you get to put that on your mother's lapel. Go for the throat, you bet. Dads are just as important, we never forget them. There's the father's pin, you can pin down on your father. And while he's going for blood, she's up where she can't get me right now. It's really funny, we were talking back in July or June about how long it was taking to get his eagle. And he was like really letting it hang on, and he's got an outdoor project that's starting to get kind of, weather's starting to get, we got summer camp coming up, we got summer that Neil's not going to be going, so we need to push him along. I'm like, no, Mom, you're going to be just fine. And she's like, no, you don't understand. He will make this last forever. I'm not waiting till last week, and I'm not going to be the last day letting him get his eagle. And I really got worried, so I got on the computer right away, and I sent a message saying, Pete, we really need to get together and get your project going. And his email back was like, well, I've already got this, and this done, and we're doing this weekend. And I'm like, oh, thank God, you saved me from your mother. That was a fun Monday night. I'm like, we're right on the die. Remember that? I was like, you were like, I'm not waiting until last week. This is a new one for the Eagle Scouts. It is a mentor's pin. It is designed for anyone that has helped you along the way, anybody that, you're at your last thing, you just come home from camp with Josh, you're not going back. There's somebody that said you need to go back, you need to finish this, and that's no mentor person. So on your own, you can present this to whoever it is that has been a mentor, and you present that to them. And a symbol of Boy Scouting, and reward you, Eagle Sash. We have Troop 57, Washtenaw District, Blackhawk Area Council. I'd like to present you the 120th Eagle Scout. Congratulations, everyone. So we kind of did away with them about 20 years ago. No, even earlier than that. When did you guys get rid of tie slides? Or ties? Been 30 years?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. We found out too many kids are using them to, like tie each other up. And
Choke the Scoutmaster. Choke the Scoutmaster.
Done that, been here. Pete has decided that he's also going to join NISA, which is the National Eagle Scout Association. You talk about a fraternity of few men. Fraternities they got on campus, and anybody can join them after superior hazing and stuff. NISA is the fraternity. In order to belong to it, you got to be one of, four of every 100 get to be Eagle, and then you have to decide to become. So you talk about a very elite group. I do believe all of the, 10 of 12 of the Apollo astronauts all were NISA members. They're all Eagle Scouts, 10 of the 12. So you talk about the number, the company you keep when you wear that is amazing. So congratulations on becoming a NISA member, sir. Congratulations. He's got to tie a knot, so that might take a couple hours. So I'll let the parents do their parents' response.
Pete, there's a clip on it somewhere.
Like I said, it might take a couple hours to tie a knot. So, you guys, it's all yours.
I'll be short and sweet since we have reception downstairs. I want to thank all of you that are here today. The people who decided to show up today are the ones that thought that this was really important to Peter. And I really appreciate you all showing up. You are the people that were important to his life in getting him to this point. My boot was only size 10, so I'm sure he needed more boots. So I'm glad you are all here to help goad him along and push him along into this, because he did need some good pushing sometimes. So I don't really want to talk too much. I just want to say thank you to everybody here, and congratulations, son. I appreciate the effort. It was well deserved. Thank you.
Like Mr. Hammerline said, the one thing that a lot of you gals and guys that are here, the leaders, one of my biggest things was he's going to never make his court because he's going to die if he's the day before his birthday. He didn't die. It was only the week before. So, but because his project was a summer project, it was long, and he's a December birthday, so anyway, I do want to thank all of you adults and men and women that have been with this troop all this time, with and without Scouts in the troop, that dedicate yourself to raising up fine young men. And that's very special to me. You have been so influential and key in helping to raise him up outside of our home, that it's been a blessing to me and to my husband and to our family. So I want to thank you all very much for that, and I appreciate your time, your efforts, your caring, good times and bad times, times that I never hear about. This was great. He never tells us anything. Tell me more later. I never get the stories. So, but yes, thank you again. Thank you, Peter, for finally getting there and getting your paperwork in the week before so that you can be here. Thank you.
Again, yes, thank you all for coming out. It means a lot to me. And I'm going to keep this short as well because you all know how much I love talking. Troop 57 has been a pretty big part of my life, scouting in general. Being homeschooled, it's been sort of one of my only social outputs, being able to meet people and make friends and whatnot, and Josh and a couple of other people in the troop. So I really thank the boys and the adults and for just being friends with me and helping me along this path. I want to thank all the leaders especially that have been able to help me get through, just to get up there, like Mrs. Wolonik, Mrs. Heberlein, Mr. Heberlein, Mr. Leiter, and pretty much all of the other people that are in the troop, regardless whether or not they have a kid in. But it's after it's all said and done, and only 4%, 2%, or whatever the percent is that get Eagle out of everyone who joins Scouts. I'm really proud to be in that really small percentage of boys that has made it to the top, and I'm really proud to say that I'm an Eagle, and I'll be able to say that for the rest of my life. Yeah, It means a lot to me. Thanks.
You remember your start when you first came in? It's a pretty big group. I think it was 22, 24, something like that. 22? Yep. And 8 of you. So if you do the math, that's pretty good. So the last one was Zach, just a few weeks ago. So that's pretty neat. And I think Ms. Mana, you, Mr. Evelyn touched on a little bit. We'll do a lot of things for the platform. There's a lot of things that you did for us. All right, with that, I'm going to call up Dr. Olson again to lead us in the benediction. If I could have Nick come up for retirement of colors.